I'm Janelle Stolten-Holtmeyer, Associate Editor of Modern Distribution Management. And today I'm talking with Kevin Boyle, President of Industrial Distribution Consulting. Hi, Kevin. How are you?
I'm very well today, Janelle.
There's been a lot of discussion in recent years about the aging workforce in distribution and manufacturing and the challenge of knowledge transfer to the next generation. As an industry veteran, what have you seen?
Well, an aging workforce and the current economic conditions is really creating a perfect storm, Janelle, in the North American industrial talent pool. The baby boomers, like me, are starting to retire, and tight economic conditions are causing a lot of companies to offer incentive programs for people to consider retiring early. And so people are making that decision and moving on. In recent conversations with an industrial manufacturer, I was talking to him about the baby boomer generation, and he was mentioning that in the next 5 years, 35% of their management team is going to retire. And they currently have a situation where they do not have any succession planning or mentoring programs in place to have people to fill in those roles. And another example of that situation, when I was at the PTDA Industrial Summit just a few weeks ago, I met with about 6 different people who had told me that they either have retired or are retiring this year. And one major distributor has 2 of their senior executives retiring this year. So, I mean, it was amazing, but it's happening.
You mentioned mentoring. How important is mentoring to the industry?
Well, mentoring is really critical. When people leave, there's this conundrum that takes place because people are being incentivized to retire, but when they retire, they take with them huge amounts of knowledge and experience. In regard to mentoring, in my experience and in my career, I had the benefit of being mentored, and it was a huge benefit to me. In May 2010, I retired from Loctite Industrial Group of the Henkel Corporation after 24 years of managing their industrial distribution program. The last 10 years as Vice President of Industrial Distribution. And prior to joining Loctite, I was responsible for industrial distribution management for Veeder-Root Company, which is now a brand of the Danaher Corporation. But throughout my career, especially when I first got started, I was really fortunate enough to have been mentored by some really great people, some senior associates and many industrial colleagues. To address your question more specifically, I think mentoring is more important today than ever before, because when I started my career, people tended to stay a long time at a company. Some people stayed at a company for their entire career, or at least for an extended period of time. Today, that's no longer the case. People tend to move around more often, and talented individuals within an organization are frequently being promoted to different levels very quickly so that there is no continuity in roles. And in the old days, people would pass along company culture and philosophies, professional ethics, and all those kinds of things that don't have an opportunity to get passed along as easily today. I think there's also a tendency to get mentoring and training a little bit confused. Mentoring is different from training. I'm sure you must have gone to a training session at one time or another in your life, and you go for one meeting, maybe a couple of hours or an hour long, and after you walk out, everybody says, well, you're trained. You know, a perfect example is when you go for an IT training session, which I've been through many of them, and they say, okay, Kevin's been trained. And then the help desk goes crazy with all these phone calls because people really aren't trained. They've just been exposed to something. Mentoring is more of a long-term process where you learn by doing. Somebody helps you along, gives you advice. A good analogy might be when you were very little and you started learning how to ride a two-wheel bicycle, you had training wheels. And mentoring is almost like putting those training wheels on somebody's career.
One of the things that has come up in prior conversations is that with the different generations that are coming in and learning different ways, is this a way to kind of bridge that gap between the generations?
Yeah, I think it really is, because mentoring is a long-term process, and it's something that really needs to take place to help the newer generations to gain the understanding of a company's culture, philosophies. For example, at Loctite, the philosophy we had was that distributors are our channel partners, not our customers. And that was ingrained in us as part of the process. But no, today with the younger generations moving around and not having the same focus, that kind of stuff gets overlooked.